Have you ever wondered how one man could plunge an entire continent into war, redrawing the map of Europe forever? Well, get ready, because today we're diving into the epic, chaotic, and absolutely brilliant saga of the Napoleonic Wars. This isn't just a story of battles and treaties. It's the story of one man's colossal ambition, a man named Napoleon Bonaparte. It all starts in the fiery aftermath of the French Revolution. France was a mess. And in the chaos, a young, ambitious Corsican general saw his chance. Napoleon wasn't just a military genius. He was a master of opportunity. Through a brilliant coup d'etat in 1799, he seized power, becoming first consul of France. He promised stability, order, and glory. And boy, did he deliver on the glory. But the old monarchies of Europe, Britain, Austria, Prussia, and Russia were not about to let this revolutionary upstart dictate the future. They saw Napoleon and the ideas of the French Revolution as a threat to their very existence. So they formed coalition after coalition to try and take him down. This is where the wars truly begin. Napoleon's first great test came against the Second Coalition. He marched his army across the Alps in a move that rivaled Hannibal and decisively defeated the Austrians at the Battle of Marengo in 1800. This victory cemented his power at home and showed Europe he was a force to be reckoned with. France was back on top. For a brief moment, there was peace. But it was a tense peace. Britain, protected by its powerful Royal Navy, remained Napoleon's most stubborn enemy. In 1805, Napoleon planned to invade Britain, but his naval ambitions were utterly shattered by Admiral Nelson at the legendary Battle of Trafalgar. The sea belonged to Britain. So, Napoleon turned his gaze back to the continent. And what a turn it was. 1805 is often called Napoleon's greatest year. At the Battle of Austerlitz, in what is considered his masterpiece, he faced the combined armies of Russia and Austria. Through brilliant tactics and deception, he lured them into a trap and achieved a stunning victory. It was so decisive it shattered the Third Coalition and dissolved the 1,000-year-old Holy Roman Empire. Napoleon was now the master of Central Europe. He didn't stop there. The Prussians, feeling a bit left out and overly confident, declared war in 1806. Big mistake. Napoleon crushed them in a whirlwind campaign, culminating in the twin battles of Jena and Auerstedt. He marched into Berlin in triumph. He then pushed east, fighting the Russians to a bloody stalemate in the winter snows of Eylau, before finally defeating them at Friedland. At the height of his power, Napoleon controlled a vast empire. From Spain to Poland, his brothers and marshals sat on thrones. He tried to cripple his last major rival, Britain, economically through the Continental Systema. Massive embargo, forbidding his allies and subject states from trading with the British. But this policy would prove to be one of his biggest mistakes. The trouble started in Spain. When Napoleon tried to force his brother onto the Spanish throne in 1808, the Spanish people rose up in a brutal, widespread guerrilla war. The British, led by the future Duke of Wellington, saw their chance and landed an army in Portugal. This peninsular war would become a bleeding ulcer for Napoleon's empire, draining men and resources for years. It was the Spanish ulcer that he could never quite heal. But Napoleon's greatest blunder was yet to come. His relationship with Tsar Alexander I of Russia had soured, partly because of the Continental System. In 1812, convinced he could force the Tsar to submit, Napoleon assembled the largest European army ever seen, the Grande Army of over 600,000 men, and invaded Russia. The campaign was a catastrophe of biblical proportions. The Russians refused to give a decisive battle, instead retreating deeper and deeper into Nihov, vast country, burning everything in their path. Napoleon captured Moscow, but it was a hollow victory. The city was set ablaze, and with no supplies and the brutal Russian winter setting in, Napoleon was forced to order a retreat. That retreat became one of history's most horrifying military disasters. Starvation, sub-zero temperatures, and relentless Cossack attacks decimated the Grande Army. Of the more than 600,000 men who marched in, fewer than 100,000 staggered out. Napoleon's aura of invincibility was shattered. Seeing that chance, the old enemies reformed. Russia, Prussia, Austria, and Sweden joined forces in the Sixth Coalition. A now vulnerable Napoleon fought with his old brilliance, but he was outnumbered and outmatched. The decisive Battle of the Nations at Leipzig in 1813 was a crushing defeat. The Allies closed in on Paris. In 1814, with his own marshals turning against him, Napoleon was forced to abdicate. They exiled him to the tiny island of Elba in the Mediterranean. They thought the story was over, but you can't keep a man like Napoleon down. Less than a year later, in a move of incredible audacity, he escaped Elba, landed in France, and marched on Paris. The troops sent to stop him. His old veterans tearfully flocked to his banner. King Louis XVIII fled, and Napoleon was emperor once more. This period is known as the 100 Days. Europe was stunned and horrified. The Allies quickly reassembled their armies to stop him once and for all. It all came down to one final, epic confrontation in Belgium. On June 18th, 1815, Napoleon faced a combined British and Allied army under the Duke of Wellington and a Prussian army under Gebhard von Blücher. The place was Waterloo. The battle raged all day, a brutal, bloody affair. For a moment it seemed Napoleon might just pull off another miracle, but the timely arrival of the Prussians turned the tide. The French Imperial Guard, his elite, last reserve, was thrown in and broken. The French army collapsed, and Napoleon fled the field. The dream was over. This time, there would be no second chances. The British exiled him to St. Helena, a remote, windswept rock in the middle of the South Atlantic, thousands of miles from anywhere. He would spend the last 6 years of his life there, dictating his memoirs. Before dying in 1821, the Napoleonic Wars left a profound legacy. Millions had died. The map of Europe was redrawn at the Congress of Vienna, establishing a balance of power that would last for nearly a century. But they also spread the ideas of the French Revolution, legal equality, religious toleration, and administrative reform across the continent. Napoleon, the man who dreamed of empire, had inadvertently sown the seeds of modern Europe. So, from a revolutionary general to an emperor, to an exile, and back again. The story of Napoleon is a testament to what one person's ambition can achieve and the catastrophic price it can demand. Thanks so much for joining me on this whirlwind tour of the Napoleonic Wars. If you found this journey through history fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more epic stories. Let me know in the comments which part of Napoleon's life you find most incredible. Until next time,